Boeing has made a lot of different planes that they are very proud of, like the 747. But who knows what happened that on March 2019, every single 737 MAX had to get grounded, and that means they weren't allowed to fly anymore. Nobody could believe that a company like Boeing, with all the years of experience they had, that they messed up this bad with this plane. This caused the Boeing company to not be at the tippity top anymore, and they kind of lost their reputation. Until this date, 387 737 MAX were sold all around the globe, and they were working in different airlines. But at that time, all of them had to get grounded. So what was the problem with this modern airplane? The issue of the 737 MAX was the sensor in the tip that controlled the angle of the airplane. And the sensor would give faulty codes to the computer, and in places where the tip had to be lifted up, the sensor would not accept it and pull it back down. This issue caused two 737 MAX to crash into the ground, and 346 people died. This is the 737 story, and this is when 387 MAX are parked and they are not allowed to be used. How is that possible? This is millions of dollars of equipment. You don't buy airplanes to just park it. This is when Boeing felt danger, and if they couldn't do something, they were gonna lose their credibility. If they forget about this, nobody's gonna trust them anymore. And that is why they decided to fix it ASAP. But before all this, it's good to know that there was a survey for the American people, and 70% of the people said that even if they fix this airplane, I am not going to fly in it, even if they fix it or not. And that's when Boeing said, in 1 month, we're gonna fix the issue, and every plane will be flying soon. They only asked for 1 month to get this job done, but they couldn't. And month after month passed, but nothing was being done. But they didn't want to mess up this time. Because just like we said, their reputation was on the line. This plane had a complicated issue, and it was a software problem. It wasn't the wing, the engine, the material used, or anything else like that. If these were the problems, they could resolve them easier. But when you're working on sensor and software issues, that's when it gets complicated. Because you not only have to fix it, but you have to keep testing it, that it's not bugging out. They have to fly it for hours to really see if they resolve the issues. In 2019, the FAA said this thing is not allowed to fly anymore until we approve it. And Boeing had to fix one of their planes, run all the tests that they need. If they were sure everything is good, they had to hand it over to the FAA. And that's when the FAA pilots sit behind it and run a test. If they find no issues, it's allowed to fly again. Boeing made a deal, but they had one request, and they said, any pilot that's supposed to fly this thing has to have the specific 737 MAX license. And it's good to know that the FAA has to give this license to that pilot. Boeing did this so anyone that wants to fly this thing knows this airplane very well, and they wouldn't mistake it for a regular 737. Because Boeing said it's very different, and the pilot has to know the difference. But that's when we hit a problem. To train pilots for a specific plane, it's very expensive. And that's in the case when Boeing was trying to sell these airplanes to different airlines. They said that you don't need any specific training to fly this thing, and any pilot in an airline can fly it with ease. To train pilots, you need a simulator, and the simulator that was designed to fly the 737 MAX was $15 million each. And whenever it's in use, every hour, it's thousands of dollars. We could say these simulators are the most realistic simulators ever, and anyone that sits behind it, it feels like an actual airplane. And that is the exact reason that these are $15 million a pop. So who's gonna pay for all this? Boeing is not paying for it. The FAA is the government, so they're not paying either. So who has to pay for it? The same people that bought the airplane and they're parked in their airport, and that's the airlines. Boeing says, we'll fix the airplane, but your pilots has to have the 737 MAX license to fly. It's good to note that the 737 MAX was eventually fixed. So one of these fixed airplanes has to be given to the FAA for a test. It's good to know that it's also passed the FAA test. Are those 387 737 MAXs that have been sitting ready to fly again? No, they can't. Because when an airplane sits for more than 1 year, a lot of things have to be performed for it to be ready to fly. Not only do they have to fix the sensor issue on this plane, but the Boeing engineers have to inspect the plane so thoroughly because it has been sitting for so long, and that means they have to check everything. Eventually, after 1 year and 9 months of sitting, Boeing fixed every single 737 MAX, and they told the airline it's ready and go make some money. Either way, the most amount of money lost were by the airline. Because millions of dollars of airplane were just sitting, they spent millions of dollars to get them back, and they also had to spend millions of dollars for their pilots to get trained for it. The airlines had no choice but to pay all this because all their money was sitting on the ground. And eventually, in December 2020, every plane was ready to fly again, and until now, it has had no issues. In the history of aviation, there has been a lot of dangerous airplanes, planes that killed a lot of people, but the same type of airplane flew for many more years. But this airplane was in the internet era, and after all the bad things happened, social media basically ruined the reputation of this plane, and they showed the 737 MAX as the most dangerous airplane in history, and that's in a way that this plane is extremely safe now. But the power of the internet kinda made people suspicious of this plane, and people don't really want to fly it still. So if you guys plan on flying somewhere, would you fly this thing? I will fly it because I'm sure they fixed the issue. What do you guys think?